Hey folks, Salty Seaman here. A little off track from military stuff, so if you come here for the military, you can go on and skip this one. If you are a pro wrestling fan, currently, or maybe you were a big fan during the Attitude Era, that being the late '90s, this will interest you if you have not already heard. Big changes in the storyline, creative direction, and what have you of the biggest wrestling company in the world, WWE, and that is the announcement. Paul Heyman has been named head creative writer, executive whatever of Raw, and Eric Bischoff has been named head executive creative director of SmackDown. For those of you who maybe need a refresher course, I mean, if you're watching the current product, you know who Paul Heyman is. He is the advocate of Brock Lesnar, and is by far the best promo in the company. And he has been doing stuff back when he does not show up every week, but he is there when he's doing his Brock things. And generally, he's known he helps out backstage and produce some stuff. And generally, I notice when I know Paul is there and I see a particularly ECW-ish, aka really good segment, I know Paul had his fingerprints on it. There was an opening with like the Shield battling like Corbin and all these people. And it was just like a wild, cold open, and it was like awesome. And it was like the last good thing Raw had done in a while, and not since. And Paul was there that day, and according to Meltzer, that was his idea. And I'm totally not shocked. So I'm incredibly happy. I'm glad to see them work, at least like, hey, we're trying to make this better. We recognize people are not happy with us, and they aren't, and I'm not. And I have lifelong wrestling fan. If you know my channel, I don't always talk about it, but it came up enough. I have 4 or 5 videos about it. It's big part of my life. I'm a huge dork about it. I say the only kind of sports are fake fighting and real fighting, and that's pretty much true. I was a Braves fan back in the 80s. Of course, fuck me, my luck, right? And I was in boot camp when they won the World Series. I'm digressing. Anyway, lifelong pro wrestling fan. Just come from that whole kind of power fantasy thing. I was a big comic book guy as well. I think all it kind of plays into the same kind of, thing. People who are attracted to that kind of thing are attracted to that kind of thing. And, lifelong fan, ups and downs, and I've lost interest, here and there. And, and honestly, the last 10 years, I can't say I watched the product current. I was, I love reading and researching about the older stuff and what went behind the scenes back then, because, that information just started coming out with these shoot interviews, and it's very, very much enjoyable. But then my son, 9-10 years old, started becoming a fan, and it was something we could bond all about. Pro wrestling. I watch it with him. We have the network. We go to live shows, and his youthful enthusiasm is reminds me of how I liked wrestling when I was a kid. Only I didn't have a dad that kept spoiling all the kayfabe by breaking it constantly like I do. But this guy did this, and this, and we also watch Botchamania, which he loves because he's my kid. But yeah, I've been to it for the last year, following along. A year ago, there's a lot of stuff we really, really liked, obviously. And both of us in the last, few months have basically not been watching. We watch some of the pay-per-views, and that's kind of it. Occasionally a Raw or SmackDown if we hear about something. But, we were talking about this today, and, he's 10, his understanding of all of that works isn't, is what it is for his age and his knowledge. But I mean, he knew enough from what we have watched to know who what Paul Heyman meant besides Brock Lesnar's advocate. He knows he was the ECW guy, and I've told him over and over again, he's, the mad genius who created a lot of things we love in wrestling. So he was very excited about that. Bischoff, he knows from the, anything we've seen on like the history of WCW and NWO. So he knows the name. He knows he's an important guy in the wrestling business, but like myself, has no real opinion on it. Obviously, Bischoff, properly motivated, it has talent in terms of wrestling booking. You don't beat WWE at its own game and beat them like a redheaded fucking stepchild for a year and a half like that if you didn't have the juice. And I always thought Eric does, but I think that juice is limited. I think he has so much to give, and what it is great, but it's definitely not near the output of a Paul Heyman, looking back at like the entire run of ECW, like, yeah, not everything was great, but I mean, for the overall majority of storylines, I mean, I put that body of work against anybody. Say what you will about the style of the wrestling and, just how kind of dirty and guttural it was. He was doing something different, and it was brilliant. It worked for the time. And he's shown, as he's been a writer and a commentator and what else on WWE, when he puts his paw prints on something, he does good work. The best era of SmackDown of all time is his. He was the head writer during the SmackDown 6, the, Guerreros and Benoit and Angle and the world's greatest tag team, and all those guys, and that's him. He booked all that. He created the superstar of Brock Lesnar. He created a lot of Eddie Guerrero. A lot of a lot of great stuff from the early 2000s comes from his writing. And of course, the whole Attitude Era is probably predicated on ECW, and he's shown he can adapt to the times. He would never be a guy to try to give you ECW 2.0, which they did do, but, again, he was, kind of shut out of the creative process at that point. And Vince created his own ECW, which, Paul said from the beginning was an abortion. Like the first creative meeting, he knew he was doomed. But if they're truly saying like he has full creative control, he is booking Raw, he answers to no one but Vince, no Triple H, no Steph, no Shane. Not that I think Shane gets involved, but basically, he'll be doing Raw. In terms of creative stuff, Triple H will be focused on NXT, and which he's been doing a wonderful job of. It just sucks no one watches it. I don't even watch it, but every time I see it, it's a great show. Their pay-per-views are fucking outstanding. Bischoff and SmackDown. I have some predictions on that one. More, he's going to do something radically different. Bischoff is one of those guys who always looks to be an innovator and looking for really reach outside the box in creative situations, and that's where I see him taking it. I don't. Heyman's style of booking, I think I can kind of see where it's going on Raw. He has the talent, he has the mouthpieces. He's gonna tweak and turn it and make it. He has the talent to really make this good. We'll see. Obviously, how much Vince can veto him. How much maybe he has lost his stuff, but I don't think he has. I have a 90%. I'm excited for the first time. I think Raw is going to be really, really good for the foreseeable future until Vince changes his mind again. But SmackDown is a more interesting tale, I think, because we just kind of know, we know Paul. Paul, given him the freedom, should produce some really good quality television. Bischoff is going to go. He's going to try to create a show that is very different, and he's tried it before. I don't know where he's going to go, but I assume there's going to be some major overhauls, not just in SmackDown itself, but in terms of how to present wrestling. I think just knowing Uncle Eric, I have that prediction, and good on letting Triple H just focus on making NXT the best thing it can be. Other than bringing in my buddy Jim Cornette as a talent advisor, promo guy, whatever. That would be like the one thing left is like him, and I think him and Triple H could really make NXT even better than it already is. But they're never going to hire Jim for many reasons. If you're a big wrestling fan, I don't have to get into it. But it is the most exciting news we've gotten in a while, and we've coming off AEW's formation. We had Osprey and Omega, one of those guys. I think it was Osprey feuding with Seth Rollins on Twitter. And it has been getting exciting, but behind the scenes, but on camera, I've not. I've been very kind of down on the product, both WWE's and I other than a couple of the big matches on the AEW shit, I wasn't that impressed really. The Rhodes boys put on one of the best matches of the year, but beyond that, I was. And the Moxley reveal, it was okay. It was good. I had no problem with it. I can't wait to see what AEW does. Ring of Honor's been in the shitter for a while. Their TV is boring. I mean, obviously, you go live to their live shows, they still don't put fantastic matches, but yeah, the TV landscape for like good wrestling storylines has been shit. Like just absolute shit for a year. Becky was the biggest bright spot out of it, and they almost managed to fuck her up. They've been trying to bring Bayley back, and that's been hit or miss. And just lost Ronda. Brock is Brock. And I like they're pushing Seth and Kofi. It's two young guys who, they gave him the ball and they're saying, "Hey, go run with it." I think Seth's doing a good job, and Kofi needs to change it up if he's going to continue like that. The goodwill of being the underdog, plucky babyface that won only lasts you so long. But I look forward to seeing what Eric does with Kofi, and I know for a fact Paul will do a lot of great things with Seth, and also of course he has Becky. Charlotte, somebody. I mean, I would love Asuka to be under Heyman. You just turn her into like a just a feared badass who happens to be pretty and elegant as she should be. But we'll see what Bish does with her on SmackDown. Anyway, just wanted to drop this real quick because it's breaking news and I had thoughts. So that's all I got. You have any comments, feel free to leave them down in the section. You know where it's at. Call me a fucking idiot. Discuss things at length over Cigar and Brandy's. However you want to do it, I'm all game. You want to talk some wrestling shit, we can talk some shit, but you're going to lose. Anyways, my friends, love you all, and that's all the Salty Seaman's got to say about wrestling. Peace.